Hey, it struck me as I realized we're telling people to send their thoughts on this contest today. Don't put your name and address on there. We'll contact you.
Yeah, don't do that.
In the old school mailbox before we had the TVG community, that was fine because we're the only ones who saw it.
Right.
All right. But for those of you who are participating in our little essay contest today, don't put your name and address on there. We'll get a hold of you and get you the West Point stuff, but we will try and read your response on the air. Our contest today is if Rachel Alexandra wins the Woodward, can Zenyatta be Horse of the Year? And if you think she can, how's she going to do that? What does she have to do? Does she have to go and face Rachel Alexandra? Can she just win the Breeders' Cup Classic? Can she just be in the Ladies' Classic? What would she have to do to be Horse of the Year at that
bear
point?
in mind, Jess Jackson said if she wins the Woodward, that might wrap it up for the year. Unless Zenyatta wants to come for the Beldame, they would rethink that.
I have to say, those comments in the press release today by Jess Jackson is the first time that anyone in either camp said this is where we could see the matchup happening between Zenyatta and Rachel Alexandra. And the Beldame was mentioned. And TVG Betfair has promised a $400,000 boost to the purse if indeed that matchup can happen. And the way I see it, the Woodward is going to have great impact on how both camps view it. Now, this is, again, if the connections in Zenyatta are looking for Horse of the Year, then, yeah, they have to see what happens in the Woodward. And my view of it is, if she loses the Woodward, then they can stay out here, make their plan towards the Breeders' Cup World Championships. But if Rachel Alexandra wins the Woodward and is going to shut it down with that resume, but don't leave your name and address because it could get ugly. You notice I never leave mine in the forum. First horse about to move forward, Premier Flyer.
A lot of arguments saying that Zenyatta hasn't faced the boys.
It's just like, yeah, stop. Yeah. We're asking you, how could she be Horse of the Year if Rachel Alexandra wins the Woodward? What would they have to do? Is it as simple as taking on Rachel Alexandra in the Beldame
and then winning the Classic?
Or is there a back route we haven't thought of? Winning the Breeders' Cup Turf and the Classic.
I mean, if they meet up in the Beldame and never run after that, could the Horse of the Year be decided in the Beldame rather than the Breeders' Cup Classic?
Oh, I would think if that matchup happens, that's for Horse of the Year. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. All right, the 7th of Del Mar, Trevor Denman with the rest of the load, and then the call. Good luck.
The usual QT comes forward. Turn sideways. Meanwhile, Best of Intentions in the green colours coming up. The usual QT, they've opened the front of the gate now, goes in the style. Here's Stormy Game. And then it'll be Barbarossa to the outside gate. Stormy Game in. Barbarossa goes straight in. All in. And away they go to a good beginning. Best of Intentions sprinting over to take the early lead. On the inside, the usual QT up alongside Stormy Game, and Barbarossa is going to have to go wide from that outside gate. Just in behind those two comes Now and Zen. Adam Suances is in the red. Along the inside, we have Dakar Guy. Only 5 off those leaders. They fairly bunched up here. Renegade Storm is hugging the rail. They've been followed by Premier Flyer, who's now 7 off the leaders. And at the back is Warren's Tony R. Past the 3/4 pole they go, and Best of Intentions going along in front by 2, being followed by the usual QT in 2nd and Stormy Game 3rd. Then it's Barbarossa 4th. Renegade Storm down at the rail, 4 lengths off the leaders. Dakar Guy is back in 6th. Then it comes Now and Zen. Premier Flyer in the red cap at the rail gives them 6 length start. Then we drop back to Adam Suances and Warren's Tony R. They have a half-mile left to go, and Best of Intentions still in front by Elect, being tracked by the usual QT right there 2nd. Then back to Stormy Game in 3rd. Renegade Storm is giving them 4 length start. There goes Barbarossa with an early run wide out, and Premier Flyer moving into contention. Premier Flyer, red colours down at the rail all the way up to 3rd now. Then we come back to Warren's Tony R running on late. Top of the lane, then the usual QT burst to the front. The usual QT, the one to beat now as he strides for home. Premier Flight coming home gamely. Barbarossa, and inside of that, Best of Intentions, but the usual QT well clear. And the usual QT and Garrett Gomez striding home impressively to win it easy. 2nd will be Best of Intentions. Premier Flyer and maybe Renegade Storm got up for 4th.
How about this? Our first favorite in the pick six sequence, and with ease. That is the usual QT.
Certainly was. Very easy victory here for Garrett Gomez and Jim Cassidy. Horse was getting a little warm going into the gate, but didn't make any difference here. Very, very impressive victory. Won over a next out winner last time and absolutely demolished this field here today.
4-9-1. 4-9-1. How about that? There's, the only change is at the top here. At this point, it is the 9, best of intentions with the lead, but you can see Garrett Gomez, as we say, with a handful.
He certainly was, and it was in the perfect spot because the 9 ran quite away and quite well as well up on the front end, stretching out a sprint. So Garrett was right there, poised to make that jump as soon as the 9 weakened in the stretch there, and that's exactly what happened. You see, no one's coming, and Garrett Gomez took first opportunity of a weakening pace setter to get some separation and justified those even money odds at post time.
Okay, so a dominating win here, 4-9-1, even money, over 14-1, over 6-1. And you can see the usual QT. Boy, every time I look up, if you've got a check mark, Matt's right there with you.
Yeah, and we handicapped these races independently. It's not like we got together and huddled, went over it over dinner. These are independent check marks.
Okay, so we were getting some responses to our contest and the TVG community, but then we went to the old school mailbox.
Mail at TVG.com.
There's a lot of responses there, and I thought Chris in New York had a pretty good response.
He did.
But we're not declaring you the winner, Chris. You might be eventually, but this is kind of a good example. And he's just saying, regardless of what both horses have done, it's been a phenomenal year. And I think that's where everyone has to step back from their loyalties. Race number 4 at Woodbine, 3 minutes to get to TVG.com and play. Let's go back to Del Mar, the usual QT. I was looking at this horse, obviously open company, face decent company, but I looked at that last start and thought they ran so quick, 45-1, it was the ideal setup. So I kind of got trapped into thinking that maybe I had to use a few horses in here, but the usual QT's class really shows. And look at that mile, Simon. For state bred optional 25, you don't see that time even when the turf is playing quick.
No, you don't. 134 flat with the rails up. They ran 133 and 4 last time, so back-to-back efforts from the usual QT and swift fractions. Best of intentions running well for second, hanging on there. $4 on top. Jim Cassidy, Don Van Racing, and Nentwig Stables are the owners. Garrett Gomez aboard.
Okay, so our pick 3 with the last 3 races for $1 returns $160.70. The one thing with this $1 million pool in the pick 6, it's always going to overpay anyway. There's always going to be value, and there's still 2 races to come that could result in some value. Simon's got his pick 4 continuing along, and in this next